Continue with the chess set series. In this video, we're going to go over how you can reuse certain parts, common parts, in various files with similarities. And we're going to go over a little bit more sophisticated kind of extrusions to make the top part of this piece here. So here we have the rook. So the rook, its bottom part looks pretty similar to some of the other pieces, and then it's got some kind of sophisticated extrusions up here that we'll have to do a few tricks to master. Okay, so in this file, I'll switch off the final file. Now we just have the image plane here, and I'm going to switch on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the original piece we started in the series, the king. So I'll switch that on right now. Okay, so here we have the king, and I'm going to go over here with the image plane. So if we zoom in here, we'll notice that pretty much all the chess pieces share a very similar bottom. The rook is a little bit smaller than the king because the king is the largest piece. And this kind of, I guess the stem or neck piece is longer because the king is, of course, the largest piece. But they all share this very, heavy similarities here because it's a cylindrical form that's been extruded. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut off the elements we don't need, and then we're going to reform them by using scaling and moving, edge loops, faces, vertices, etc., to reform it to the proper size that we need. So I've already gone ahead and done a few of these steps, so we don't have to do each step one by one. So I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this to that, and I'm going to turn off the king, put on the image plane. Here's the king. So what I did was I copied the king form, and then what you can do is with these parts here, you can decide which elements you might want. So in this one, I'm going to show you how I did this, but I have the bottom piece here. So what I've done in this file here is I've taken it from the full king piece and I've modified it down. So if we go look here, go close up in here, I can get to the base part. So I've modified to create a standardized base here. You'll see it's kind of selected there, and I'll show you how we did this. Okay, so I'll switch off the full king. So, but a key thing here with this part is it's called elements. So if you have a big project with a lot of, parts that have similarities or share parts, you can create these elements. You can create libraries of elements. So we know all the chess pieces share a base form that's very similar to this. So what you'll do is you'll edit down the king form and make some modifications, and then you'll export this out. So if you ever have a small file like this, you want to export an element, or you just want to export one part of the file, you can go over here to File, Export. You can do Export All, which would send all the parts out, but you can go here to Export Selection. And if you ever see one of these, this means there's a dialog box. If you pop on that, that'll give you some selection points here. So you might want to change your format, because a lot of times too with Maya, you'll be going to other programs and you might be sending data to a 3D printer or something like that. So in here, you have all kinds of data formats. Like you have your basic Maya formats. Let's move down a little bit. STEP is a standard kind of CAD format. You can transfer things around. IGES also. DWG is for, and DXF is for AutoCAD. Go down here. FBX is a transfer format, usually used for Autodesk programs. OBJ export. So that's what you do. And then you would just pick what format you want. So I'm going to export as FBX. Then I would go down here and I would pick on export selection, and then it would be exported. Okay. So we're not going to do that right now, but then you could reuse that. You could bring this into some of the other files, which we will. I will show you how to do that later. Okay. So what I'll do now is I'll switch this off, and I will bring this back. So you want, to be in just a 2D view here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus just on this bottom part here. So I'm going to just cut off these elements here, and then yeah. So let's get to that. Let's go to our modeling toolkit. So here we're on the modeling toolkit, all the way on your right. And then you're going to be picking by faces. Remember, these are all your selection tools up here. This is object selection. So if I wanted to go back to object selection, I can just pick on a full object, not the elements, not the components. Here's vertices. So if I wanted to pick on vertices of an object, here's edges for our edge loops, which we'll be using later. You'll see it turns brown there. And what we want to do is focus on faces. So I'm just going to grab some faces. Now, faces are each one of these things, like the mosaics on top of an object. Okay, so I'm going to select all of these here. I'm going to grab them, and I'm just going to see, no, they'll turn brown when they're selected. And then I'm just going to hit the delete key, and then they're going to be deleted. Okay. So here, now I'll zoom in, and we'll do that trick, the double click trick. So if you remember, when you have edge selection on, everything that's red there on screen, that means it's selecting a single edge. Okay. But if you want to select what they call an edge loop, go to this view so we can see it in 3D. So again, I'm kind of mousing around, and it's selecting. I can select a few of them by themselves. So I can pick one with a shift. I can do shift select. I can shift select. If I want to deselect one of them, I can use the control key. So that deselects. Okay. Now, but if I want to get the whole ring, Maya has a nice little tool here. You just double click. Okay. So any ring I want, I could double click this one. I could double click that one. Okay. So I think, let's see, which one are we going to start on? And you can do this in any view you'd like. So like right now, we're going to be just working in the side view here. So maybe what I'll do is I'll start with the bottom ring here. So again, with the edge loops, we've gone over this, but all the transform tools work for them. So all I do is just scale this down, and then you can just go up to the next rung up, and you just scale it down, and you scale down. I can do two at a time. I pick on both of those. I'm scaling both of those down. I can move them because now they're kind of scaling a little up. So now we'll just follow the contours on this thing here. Okay. I'm going to use the R key, hotkey, for scaling. Use the R key again for scaling. Double click. Double click. Same thing. Okay. So that one needs to go out a little bit, and it's got to move. I'm going to use a hotkey because when you start doing this stuff, sometimes you want to start using the hotkey so you don't have to constantly going back to the menus. But until you get used to that, don't worry about it. You can do whatever you want. Okay. So I'm going to move this down. Scale it up. All right. So now I go up here. This looks, fairly similar. I mean, the same shape. Okay. I can go over here. I can do my extrusions. So I'm just going to do this quickly. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Let me show you also a trick. Let's try something different here. I'll show you something here also. So I'm double clicking on that last ring there. Okay. I'm going to hit the W key. I could do extrude. Okay. Oh, you know what? It has a, hold on 1 second. Yeah. It made a face in there. So let me double click this again. Okay. I'll go to extrude. There we go. Okay. So here we go. So remember to click on this. So we're in world space. See, whenever you see this thing move to the center point there, that's in world space. That corresponds to these axes here. So that's the X axis, Z axis, and Y axis up. Okay. So instead of going up one by one, I'm going to show a little trick here. This is I'm showing everybody different kinds of ways to do things. So here for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up to here. I'm going to just show you this trick because we have another model already ready to go for the top part, but I'm going to show you how I would deal with this here. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remember if you want to move from scaling, because right now it's in move mode, you have the ability to, if you picked on this ring, you could actually rotate around, right? If you wanted to rotate that. I don't tend to do that too much, but I do tend to use scale a lot. So pick on the little cube, right? And then if you want to do global scaling, you got to pick on the center bit there. Okay, so now I have this, but this doesn't quite look right because it's, you know, it's just going straight up. It doesn't have this kind of slow arc here. So what I would do is you could go up to mesh, insert edge loop, use that tool. Okay, or you just click on it. I'll zoom in. You can see it made a line there. Okay, so you could do that, and I'm going to move it up. I'm going to move it up to this. I like when I start with things, it's nice if they're on grid points. Okay, so I'll move this up. There we go. All right, now I'm going to scale it down. So there we go. We're scaling it. So now also too, I want probably one more in here and one more in here. So you can also insert edge loops with the multi-cut tool, but you have to do, there's a trick for this, because if not, if you're just going to use the multi-cut tool, that'll just cut like a knife, like a scalpel across things. But if you want to make an edge loop across it, then you have to hold down the control key. Okay, now you see that it's going nice and smooth. Now I can click anywhere, but it's just going to stay on these lines here. And then if I wanted to go exactly like halfway in between one edge loop to the next, use your middle mouse button. Okay, might be a lot to remember for now, but trust me, you'll want to know these things later. It took me a long time to find out these things. And there we go. Okay, so now also too, you always want to get out whenever you're, especially when you're in the edge loop tool, you want to go straight to the pick tool. Remember, I've told everybody to you want to get out of tools pretty quickly, because if you're in a move tool, you'll forget that you're in the move tool, and later you'll be going around your file, and then all of a sudden you're moving objects, and you want to be very careful about that. Okay, again, so we're going to go double clicking on these edge loops here. I'm going to scale them down just to follow the contour of the image plane. Okay. All right, so let's go over here. So now you see, looks pretty good. So we basically modeled that, and we just reused this bottom piece here, and we're going to take that bottom piece and we're going to reuse it for something else later. So for another chess piece. Okay, so I'm going to switch this off because I've already done this. I've done this super clean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you how to make these pieces here. So this is where extruding, you got to get a little sophisticated, and you have to think about what you're doing. Okay, so you could just extrude up, but then you're going to have to extrude in, and then there's a lot of tricks to it. And don't worry about this extruding stuff. This takes a while to get used to. It took me quite a long time to really get the hang of all this stuff. So do not get hung up if you're not getting it right away. These videos here are just for you to kind of see things. Okay, so don't get worried if you're not getting it, not getting the hang of it. It's fine. Or if you're just not getting any of the stuff at all. Okay, so here we go. Now I've selected the final edge loop here. I'm not going to start going straight up, because then I'd have to do some cutting things, and then making the internal piece might be kind of difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to here to extrude. Okay, remember, click on the little ball there so we get to be in world space, because right now we're in what you call relative object space. Okay, so we're in the coordinate system of the object. We need to be in the coordinate system of the world. Okay, so you click on that little ball there. Okay, so I don't want to move it up. I'm not going to move it up. Okay, I am actually, you know what, before I do this, I'm going to do something here because we're having an issue with lighting there. All right, so what I'm going to do, so you'll be able to see this better, I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to start scaling these in. You see this? Okay, now I'm going to stop at this point. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, and I'm doing that because this is basically the platform for the pieces I'm going to build the turrets out of. Okay, and I'm going to do it sequential. So there's a reason for this. So I'm going to go on this again. Oops, let's see. There's a little seam there. Oh, there seems to be a couple seams right here. What is going on here? All right, let me do one little fix here. Sometimes with geometry, odd things happen. So I have to do this is sometimes when you're extruding, you'll get little seams, because if you notice here, this is probably a good thing to let everybody see here. So when I double clicked on this, it somehow is seeing that this is part of the lines here, or the edge, right? You don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these, okay? And then you go up to edit mesh, and there's this little thing, merge. Now what this is doing is taking those little yellow, the vertex points that are selected there, those are the vertices, right? So at an infinitesimal level, there's little spaces between them. So what I have to do is I have to go to merge. So I go to merge, okay? So hopefully now, let's go to double click here. I'm still having some issue here. All right, let's just try. Let's see what happens here. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Here, this is a point where I'm going to just do a shift select, because there's some kind of weird selection. So here's a time when I might have an issue with something. So now I'm going to actually go to manually selecting what I want to extrude. Okay. Always great in the middle of a demo to have an issue with something, but this is things that will happen. Okay, so now I manually pick that. So double clicking that edge ring there, for whatever reason, was causing some problems. So now I'm going to go to extrude. Same thing. I want the world space. Same thing. I want to just scale in. Okay, so I'm going to scale in pretty tight. I'm just going to go straight in. I'll cap that later. You see there's still a teeny hole there, but that's pretty easy to cap later. Now, the thing what I want to do now is I want to extrude just certain ones of these pieces here. Okay, so what I'm going to do also too, I could probably use that image plane in this view. And I don't know if you'll remember from previous lessons how you can switch an image plane on and off in certain views. So what I'm going to do is go over here, and this is why having your files very neat is and organized and well named. You see, I know exactly. I have a group that's called Rook IP for image plane and GRP for group. Okay, so now I can pick on the image plane, and you notice it's got selected here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go over here. Remember, you have to go to the attribute editor. Attribute editor always gets you control of what's underneath the hood of whatever your model is. Okay, so and if you remember, this is how you control whether the image plane shows up in all views, as it says here. It says display in all views, or just looking through camera. And right now it's set for front view. Okay, so I can click on all views now, and you see it just popped up over here. So if you notice now in the perspective view, it just popped up. So now what I want to do here, I put that on so I can know which ones I want to extrude right now. Okay. So I'm going to pick certain faces. Oh, wait, you know what I want to do? I want the reverse of this. Okay, let me show you how to invert a selection. I just realized I'm picking the wrong sets. All right, I'm going to go select invert selection. Oh, no, that's not what I want. All right, let me just do this quickly here. Sometimes this kind of modeling gets a little tedious, but it's very powerful. Okay, so now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit extrude. I'm Do the same thing. I'm gonna click this, send these up, and there we go. Now I have my model, and you can check it in different views. Like I'm gonna go to this view, realize it's a little high. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there you go. Now you have, let me switch off the image plane. And let me go here, hit the object mode. There we go. All right, so now here we go. You see, now what I've done is just by taking those selected faces and extruding them up, I have the top turrets, okay? So there you go. That's how we've made the Rook file. And you can use this like to help you while you model your series for the project. Just go follow along with all these videos, and we have a few more that we're going to be doing. And there you go. Okay. That's the end of this video.